I ignored a coworker who refused to use my actual name. So this all started when I got hired at this insurance office downtown. Nothing fancy, just basic customer service stuff, but I needed the job. On my first day, my supervisor introduces me to everyone and clearly says my name. It's Jasmine. Well, apparently not for this one guy, Brad, who sits 3 cubicles away from me. From day one, he keeps calling me Jessica. I correct him politely the first few times because, hey, people make mistakes. But then it keeps happening every single day. Morning, Jessica. How was your weekend? Hey, Jessica, can you help me with this client file? Like, dude, my name is literally on my desk nameplate that's facing you. After 2 weeks of this crap, I start getting annoyed. I'm like, Brad, it's Jasmine, not Jessica. He just laughs it off and goes, oh, right. Sorry, Jess. Are you kidding me right now? I thought maybe he had some kind of memory problem or something, so I let it slide. But then I noticed he remembers everyone else's names perfectly. He knows Sarah in accounting, Mike from it, even knows the cleaning lady's name as Rosa. But somehow my name is just impossible for him to remember. The breaking point came during our monthly team meeting. My boss is going around the table asking for updates, and when it's my turn, Brad pipes up and goes, I think Jessica has been doing great with the Thompson account right in front of everyone, including my boss. My boss looks confused and goes, who's Jessica? And Brad points at me. The whole room goes quiet, and my boss has to clarify that my name is Jasmine. I wanted to crawl under the table. After the meeting, I confronted Brad directly. I'm like, what is your problem with my name? He just shrugs and goes, names aren't really my thing, Jessica, with a smirk. That's when I realized this wasn't an accident. This guy was doing it on purpose. So I decided to play his game. From that day forward, I completely ignored him. Not just the name thing. I mean, I acted like he didn't exist. When he'd try to talk to me, I'd look right through him. When he'd ask for help, I'd pretend I couldn't hear him. Hey, Jessica, can you send me that report? Silence. I'd keep typing like nobody said anything. At first, he thought it was funny. He'd wave his hand in front of my face like, hello, Earth to Jessica. But I'd just get up and walk away. Other coworkers started noticing and asking what was going on. The best part was when he needed my help with this huge client presentation. Our boss had assigned us to work together on it. Brad comes over all confident, like, all right, Jessica, let's knock this thing out. I packed up my stuff and walked straight to our boss's office. I told him I couldn't work with Brad because I wasn't sure who he was trying to collaborate with since there's no Jessica on our team. My boss was confused until I explained the whole situation. Turns out our boss had actually noticed Brad calling me the wrong name in meetings and was already getting annoyed by it. He calls Brad into his office and I can hear him getting chewed out through the door. When Brad came back to his desk, his face was red and he looked pissed. He tried to apologize, but I just stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language because technically he was still calling me Jessica. The whole thing came to a head when we had this big client meeting. Brad is presenting and he goes, Jessica put together these numbers for us. The client looks around confused and asks, which one is Jessica? Dead silence. Everyone's looking at me and I just sit there saying nothing. Finally, my boss has to jump in and explain that he meant Jasmine. The client looks at Brad like he's an idiot and goes, if you can't remember your own team member's name, how am I supposed to trust you with my account? We lost the client. Brad got written up. And the next Monday, he comes up to my desk and very quietly goes, good morning, Jasmine. I'm sorry. I looked up at him and said, thank you, Bradley. His name is Brad, by the way. He got the message real quick. Now, he not only uses my correct name, but he's so paranoid about messing up anyone's name that he double-checks with everyone before speaking. After that, the office atmosphere changed completely. Brad, once the loudest voice in the room, suddenly became the quietest. He went from being this overconfident know-it-all to the guy who carefully read every email twice before hitting send. Every time he passed by my desk, he'd give a polite nod like he was approaching royalty. And honestly, I didn't even have to lift a finger. His own behavior caught up to him. The ripple effect was hilarious. Word spread fast about what had happened in the client meeting. You could almost feel the secondhand embarrassment radiating from every cubicle. People started joking behind his back. Not cruelly, but in that office gossip kind of way. Hey, remember Jessica? She was great at her job, someone would whisper, and everyone would snicker. Brad would just glare and keep typing. Even my boss seemed to have a newfound respect for me. A few days later, he pulled me aside and said, you handled that better than most people would have. Professional but effective. I just smiled and said, "Names are kind of my thing." He laughed. But we both knew I'd turned a petty insult into a career win. From that point on, Brad and I maintained a weird truce. He was extra polite, like painfully polite. "Good morning, Jasmine." "How's your day, Jasmine?" "Did you have a nice weekend, Jasmine?" I swear he said my name so many times it started to sound like a chant. I could tell he was trying to overcompensate, but I didn't mind. I'd earned that respect. One afternoon, about a month later, we got assigned to work on another joint project, a small internal report. I caught him staring at the document, hesitating. Then he turned to me and asked, "Jasmine, do you prefer Jazz or Jazz for short?" The sincerity in his voice almost made me laugh. I told him, "Jasmine is fine, thanks." He nodded, scribbled it down in his notes, and never slipped up again. But the real cherry on top came during our next department meeting. Our boss was praising the team for improving communication, and Brad raised his hand and said, "I just want to take a moment to thank Jasmine for setting an example for professionalism and accountability." You could hear a few people choking on their coffee, trying not to laugh. I kept my face neutral, but inside I was howling. After the meeting, he stopped by my desk again. "You know," he said, rubbing the back of his neck, "I really was being a jerk before. I didn't realize how disrespectful it came off." I nodded and replied, "You learned the hard way, but you learned." And honestly, he did. These days, if a new hire walks in, Brad's the first to greet them, make sure he gets their name right, and even write it down on a sticky note. I can't help but smile every time he does it. Sometimes respect doesn't come from shouting or demanding it. Sometimes it comes from calmly teaching someone what happens when they forget who they're talking to. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a lesson Bradley will never forget. Story. My daughter broke her arm and was prepped for surgery. The doctor's expression darkened. There is something impossible inside her body. I gasped at the X-ray. Next to me, my wife's hand trembled, her face turning pale. Chapter 1, The Break That Revealed Everything. The phone call came in the middle of a meeting. I was presenting quarterly figures to the board when my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. I would have ignored it if not for the name flashing across the screen. Riverside Elementary. Something inside me sank. I stepped out into the hallway, heart pounding. A calm but urgent voice on the other end said, "Mr. Carter, there's been an incident. Your daughter Lily fell during recess. She's stable, but she's broken her arm. The ambulance is on the way to St. Mary's General. You should meet them there." I didn't even say goodbye. I grabbed my coat and ran for the elevator. I got to the hospital before the ambulance did. My wife, Amanda, was already there, pacing near the ER entrance. She looked pale and shaken, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. When she saw me, she ran into my arms. "I don't know what happened," she whispered. "The school said it was a fall, but something doesn't feel right." Minutes later, the ambulance arrived. Lily was awake but crying in pain. Her arm was visibly twisted, and her little face was scrunched up in fear. Seeing her like that shattered me. They took her into the pediatric trauma room immediately. X-rays, vitals, sedation prep. The hospital moved fast. I sat beside Amanda as the doctor came out with the scan. His name was Dr. Formalalery, an older man with gray at his temples and kind but serious eyes. But his face didn't look kind anymore. It looked disturbed. He held up the X-ray. "Here's the break," he said, pointing to the radius bone. "It's a clean fracture and we'll fix it." He paused and then slowly turned to me and Amanda. "But Mr. and Mrs. Carter, this is what's deeply concerning." He tapped the screen again, but not on the break. On something near the joint, buried deep beneath the muscle, there's a small foreign object inside your daughter's arm. Something metallic. It's embedded between the ulna and the muscle tissue. It's not recent, I frowned. "What does that mean?" "It's been there for years. Possibly since infancy. And it's not surgical. It's not a pin screw or medical device. Honestly, it looks like he leaned in. It looks like a microchip." Amanda's hand went cold in mine. She started to shake. I turned to her. "Amanda, what the hell is going on?" But her eyes were locked on the screen, lips trembling. That's when I knew. She knew something. And for the first time, I realized my daughter's injury wasn't the real emergency. It was what had just been uncovered. Chapter 2, The Lie Beneath the Surface. Amanda didn't say a word as we followed the nurse to the waiting lounge. Her hands were trembling, her lips pressed tightly together, and her face had gone ghostly pale. I sat beside her, staring at her in disbelief. Start talking, I finally said, my voice low and tense. What is that thing in Lily's arm? And why do you look like you already knew? She didn't look at me. Her eyes were locked on the floor. I reached out, placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Amanda, I said again, more forcefully. What aren't you telling me? And then, she whispered something so quietly I almost didn't catch it. It was part of the program, she said before she was born. I didn't think they'd actually do it. Flashback. Amanda had been part of a biotech research internship back in college, working under a private medical firm called Neurogenesis Corporation, a small lab mostly under the radar with huge funding and bigger ambitions. They specialized in neurochip trials for early cognitive enhancement. The theory, implant microscale chips in uterero or at birth to monitor neural development and potentially stimulate accelerated growth. I thought it was all theoretical, she whispered, now crying. They offered money for volunteers. I was 6 weeks pregnant. You were working 2 jobs. We were struggling. I felt the breath leave my body. So you volunteered our daughter. They told me it was safe, that it would be non-invasive, that they'd only implant if it met certain criteria. They said most candidates didn't qualify. I thought Lily wouldn't either. But then they offered us money up front, and I signed the papers. My fists clenched, I could barely breathe. Does Lily know? No, God, no. I thought they never followed through. I got scared and cut contact after the birth. Changed numbers. We moved cities. I thought we were free of them. I stood and paced, running my hand through my hair. But Amanda, that chip is in her arm. That means they did it without ever telling us. She nodded, a sob escaping her throat. And if the doctors found it, they might report it. It's not just illegal. It's unregulated human testing. We could lose her. Just then, Dr. Malalari returned, face grim. We've prepped for surgery, he said. But we've also notified hospital security and our legal department. This is beyond normal protocol. You need to speak to someone behind him. 2 men in suits stood near the nurse's station watching us. Amanda's eyes widened. We have to go now. I grabbed her wrist. Go where? If they call child services, they'll take Lily. They'll bury everything. Neurogenesis isn't just a lab. They have government contracts. If they find out, we'll never see her again. I looked at her horrified. Then we don't run, I said. We fight and we bring every receipt with us because something darker was at play. And now I was going to uncover the entire truth behind it, even if it meant burning everything down to protect my daughter. Chapter 3. Surveillance, Secrets, and a Choice. I sat in the cold, sterile hospital room next to my unconscious daughter, heart pounding in sync with the beeping monitor beside her. Lily looked so small in that oversized hospital gown, her arm secured with bandages where the chip had been detected. The room door creaked open. 2 suited men walked in crisp and professional. Mr. Carter? The taller one asked. Yes, I'm Agent Travers. This is Agent O'Halloran. We're with the Department of Health and Human Services, Biotech Regulation Division. We're here about the foreign object discovered in your daughter's arm. Amanda tensed beside me. I felt her fingers clutch my forearm hard. She's just a child, I said quietly. You don't need to interrogate us. Agent Travers remained composed. This isn't an interrogation, but your wife was listed as a participant in an unauthorized human enhancement trial 8 years ago. We've been investigating neurogenesis for nearly a decade. Amanda's voice cracked. You know about them? He nodded. They've been under federal investigation for bypassing FDA regulations, but until today, we never had a confirmed test subject. Most volunteers went silent. Others disappeared. The word hung in the air like a noose. The offer. Your daughter is the first living subject we've confirmed with an active implant. We'd like your cooperation, said Agent O'Halloran, his tone firm. What kind of cooperation? I asked. We need the device. We need your medical consent to study it. And we want access to any documentation your wife may have signed with Neurogenesis. And in return, I asked, protective instincts flaring. We ensure your daughter is not taken from you. No criminal charges, no custody review. We cover the hospital costs and place your family in protective status away from corporate retaliation. I stared at him. You think they'd come after us? They've buried worse, he replied. Amanda looked like she was going to collapse. Do we have time to think about it? I asked. Trevor shook his head. If you decline, the hospital is required to report the anomaly to external regulators, some of which have ties to the company itself. Once that happens, we can't guarantee your safety. The decision. Amanda and I were left alone. I don't want to lose her, she whispered. You won't, I said. But if we run, we're targets. If we stay silent, they cover it up. But if we help the feds, we blow the whole operation open. We protect her and every child they might try this on again. Amanda wiped her eyes. Then we do it. We signed the documents. The agents collected the data and left the room silently. Moments later, as we watched Lily stir from anesthesia, Amanda leaned into me, guilt and relief clashing on her face. I just wanted her to be special, she whispered. She already is, I said. Not because of a chip, but because she's our daughter. Then my phone buzzed. It was an anonymous message. You made the wrong choice. We are watching. I turned the screen toward Amanda. Her eyes widened. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Chapter 4. The Whistleblower. 2 days after the surgery, we were relocated under federal protection to a remote safe house in northern Oregon. The air was crisp, the town small, the people few. It was quiet, too quiet. Amanda was still shaken. I'd catch her staring out the window like she expected a black SUV to roll up any second. Lily, thankfully, was healing well. The chip had been removed successfully, but whatever it had done wasn't gone. Her memory retention had accelerated. Her attention span had sharpened. She was speaking French phrases she hadn't studied since kindergarten. It was both a miracle and a warning. Then one night, just after 2 a.m., there was a knock on the door. I reached for the bat under the bed. Amanda froze. Another knock, lighter this time. Then a whisper through the door. Don't scream. I'm here to help. My name is Dr. Celeste Ward. I worked on the chip inside your daughter, the woman with the truth. I opened the door slowly. She was young, maybe mid-30s, bundled in a trench coat soaked from rain. Her eyes were exhausted but alert, the kind of eyes that had seen too much and hadn't slept in days. We let her in. I don't have long, she said, glancing at the windows. I know they're watching me, but you need to understand something. That chip wasn't just experimental memory enhancement. It was part of a larger project called Aura, Artificial Upgrade for Rapid Adaptation. Amanda's breath caught. You mean like soldiers? Celeste nodded. That was the end goal. Build smarter, faster, more obedient humans. Your daughter was part of the first phase, childhood implants to test cognitive thresholds. I stared. How many other kids were involved? Celeste hesitated. Originally 12 as of now. 3 confirmed alive. Amanda gasped. Oh my God. The escape code. Celeste opened her coat and pulled out a flash drive. This has everything. Names, locations, video logs, internal memos, but you can't just hand it over to the feds. Some of them are compromised. You need to go public. A journalist? Someone who can't be bought. I took the drive from her with trembling hands. What happens if we do? They'll try to silence you. But if it hits enough headlines, they can't cover it up. You have to move fast. She stood to leave but turned one last time. Lily's mind is accelerating now. Whatever the chip unlocked, it's permanent. Protect her. She's more valuable than they'll ever admit. And with that, she disappeared into the night. The clock starts now. Amanda and I sat in stunned silence. Lily slept peacefully in the other room, oblivious to the war brewing around her. But we knew this was just the beginning. We weren't just parents anymore. We were guardians of a truth worth killing for. I pulled out my laptop, inserted the flash drive, and whispered to Amanda, "Let's show the world what they did to our daughter." And just as I hit upload, my phone buzzed again. Last warning. Shut it down. We looked at each other, no turning back now. Chapter 5. Uploading the Truth. Within 10 minutes of inserting Celeste's flash drive, I knew we were holding a bomb. The folders weren't just technical notes. They contained everything. Photos of the test children, financial transfers from shell companies to government contractors, and signed NDAs implicating some very familiar names. Amanda leaned over my shoulder, whispering, "If this goes public, they'll never forgive us." "They don't have to forgive us," I said. "They just have to leave us alone." I uploaded everything to an encrypted cloud server, linked it to 3 separate journalists I trusted from my years in tech. Each email had the same header. If anything happens to me or my family, publish everything immediately. By dawn, 2 of the journalists had replied. One of them, a Pulitzer winner known for exposing medical fraud, simply wrote, "Holy hell, I'm on it. Don't go anywhere." That morning, the first article dropped. By noon, 3 more sites had picked it up. The words neurogenesis and illegal child implants trended worldwide. TV anchors spoke in hushed tones. Senators tweeted about emergency hearings. Parents started calling hotlines to have their children scanned. And then our safe house phone rang. "Mr. Carter," Agent Travers said, voice tight. "Your upload just set off a war. You're officially under federal witness protection now. We're moving you tonight." But even as he spoke, I could hear something in the background. Alarms shouting. He wasn't in an office. He was in a scramble. "They're coming after us, aren't they?" I asked. "They're trying," he said grimly. "But the story's too big now. They can't bury it without burying themselves." That night, as Amanda packed our things, Lily wandered into the room holding my phone. "Daddy," she said softly. "Someone sent me a message. It says, 'We're sorry, my blood went cold.'" I took the phone from her. The message wasn't from an unknown number. It was from Celeste, the whistleblower who had given us the flash drive. Attached was a second file. It contained the names of every doctor, lawyer, and government official involved, including Amanda's old college advisor, the one who'd convinced her to sign up. "She's burning it all down," Amanda whispered. I stared at the list. "No," I said slowly. "We are." Chapter 6. The Collapse of the Program. 2 weeks after the first article went live, Neurogenesis was no longer a shadowy biotech firm. It was front-page news, the subject of congressional hearings, lawsuits, and criminal investigations. Parents flooded hospitals to scan their children for chips. Whistleblowers emerged from every corner. Celeste's files became the backbone of a class action suit. And we, the family who started it all, were hidden behind layers of protection while the world roared outside. But even protection had its cracks. One night at the safe house, my phone buzzed again. A new anonymous message. "We're finished. But you're still not safe. Someone close to you has been feeding them." Amanda froze when she read it over my shoulder. "Who?" That's when I realized our location, our moves. Someone had been leaking it, and the only ones who knew were the agents assigned to us. I called Agent Travers directly. "I know about the mole. Move us again." Tonight he didn't even argue. "Already on it," he said. "We intercepted a vehicle headed toward you." An hour later, we were in a convoy headed for a secure federal facility. Helicopters buzzed overhead. The whistleblower, Celeste, was already there, under guard. 3 days later, Amanda and I walked into a Senate hearing room under heavy security. Celeste sat at the witness table. I sat beside her holding the flash drive, the original source of truth. Before the cameras, before the world, Celeste swore under oath and told everything. How they had taken money to implant chips in infants. How they used shell companies to cover it up. How executives had bragged about building the next generation of soldiers. Then it was my turn. I pulled up the X-ray of Lily's arm and held it up for the senators. "This is my daughter," I said, my voice breaking. "She's 6 years old. She didn't volunteer for anything. She's not a test subject. She's a child." The room went silent. Cameras clicked. Somewhere across the country, Neurogenesis stock plummeted another 50%. By the time the hearings ended, arrest warrants had been issued for the company's board, several government contractors, and 2 sitting officials. The program called AUR was dismantled. The mole in our protection unit was caught. An underpaid contractor bribed by Neurogenesis. He flipped and gave up even more names. And Lily, she recovered. She started therapy to cope with the stress. Her abilities were still unusual, but now they were hers, and she would grow up safe. No longer a secret experiment. One night, as we sat on the porch of yet another safe house, Amanda whispered, "I'm so sorry. I wanted to give her an edge." I nearly gave her a nightmare. I took her hand. She's stronger than both of us now, and because of what we did, no one else's child will go through this. I looked at Lily playing in the yard, laughing in the evening sun. "They thought they owned her mind," I said quietly. "But she's free, and so are we." Amanda leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you think they'll ever stop coming?" I shook my head. "Maybe not, but now the world is watching and some things can't be hidden anymore." Epilogue. The light beyond the storm. 6 months later, the headlines had long shifted to newer scandals, newer faces. Neurogenesis had crumbled entirely, its executives now awaiting trial. The government announced sweeping reforms banning the use of biometric data in minors without full transparency and parental consent. The world moved on, but we hadn't. Amanda and I bought a small cottage on the outskirts of Vermont, surrounded by woods and silence. A place where Lily could run without cameras watching her. She had changed, not in a way that made her strange, but wiser. She asked deep questions now about choices, about right and wrong. Sometimes I caught her staring at her hands, wondering how something so innocent had almost been turned into a weapon. Celeste stayed in our lives. She'd found her purpose again, speaking at conferences, becoming an advocate for whistleblower protections. And every time she visited, she brought Lily a new book. Stories of brave girls who changed the world without ever picking up a sword. One winter night, I tucked Lily into bed after she had a nightmare. She clung to me and whispered, "Daddy, they can't find us now, right?" "No," I said, brushing her hair back. "They can't and they never will again." Outside, snow fell gently, peacefully. For the first time in years, I believed it would last. And deep inside, I knew. The war may have begun with a chip in my daughter's arm, but it ended with the world finally listening. She wasn't their experiment. She was my daughter, and she was finally truly free. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Revenge Exposed, because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning, every mask breaks. And every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp, stay unbroken. Stay tuned.